From the moment Emma entered our lives, I felt a sharp sense of alert that I couldn't ignore. It wasn't just intuition. There were subtle gestures, tiny behaviors that made me question her intentions. I've always been someone who notices details, and with Emma, it was no different. I realized that her smile and charm had a very specific purpose, something that went beyond simply being pleasant. I began paying attention to every word she spoke, the pauses, the glances that shifted whenever we discussed business. It's curious how some people hide ambition behind kindness. I remember one dinner where my son complimented her, and I saw the faint glimmer of triumph in her eyes. These signs were like pieces of a puzzle I had to assemble carefully, one deliberate observation at a time. I decided to take a position of quiet observation without showing open distrust. Mentally noting each detail seemed excessive at first, but I quickly realized it was essential. For instance, I noticed that she always tried to influence small decisions before moving on to bigger ones, as if silently preparing to take control. That was the moment I understood I couldn't underestimate her charm. And then came the moment when everything became clearer, when her actions began having visible consequences on both the business and the family dynamics. I knew I had to devise a plan not only to protect my interests but also my son and the foundation of our family. It's incredible how keen perception becomes an ally when dealing with people like Emma, and that perception prepared me for what was to come. Before we continue, leave a comment telling me where you're watching from and subscribe to the channel Vinganka Vintage Stories. We're building a community of amazing women who understand that our best chapters can happen at any age. Now back to the story. When Matteo and Emma got married, I realized that something even more serious was at play. It wasn't just their personal lives at stake. Her presence began infiltrating every decision in the company. Every meeting became a test of patience, as Emma had a subtle way of planting ideas that slowly diverted the course of business. I needed to understand the full extent of her influence before making a move. What surprised me most was the way she manipulated my son without him even noticing. Matteo trusted her completely, and Emma used that trust as a shield to advance her own interests. I witnessed behaviors I never thought I'd see from someone so close, harmless suggestions that gradually only benefited her. It was like watching a chess game, where every move she made carried a hidden strategy. I stayed calm and observant, even when my instincts screamed at me to intervene immediately. I knew that any impulsive reaction could ruin everything. So I began mentally documenting each situation, analyzing behavioral patterns and discreetly planning my actions. Sometimes I even simulated conversations with trusted friends to see if I was overreacting, but the sense of danger never let me be fooled. Discovering that my own son and his wife were trying to take over the business I had built for 30 years was a shock that mingled pain and disbelief. The feeling of betrayal ran deep because it wasn't just about money or power. It was about the trust one had placed in them over decades. They believed everything was perfectly laid out for them, but I could already see every gap, every flaw in their moves. And then I realized that Emma wasn't just influencing company decisions. She was reshaping the family dynamic in a way that only favored her. Every move had to be calculated, every step carefully considered. It was a delicate balance, protecting my son, the business, and at the same time, preparing the ground to regain control strategically. That was when I began sketching my boldest plan yet. I started noticing subtle changes, almost imperceptible to anyone not paying close attention, but to me they were glaring warning signs. Emma replaced loyal employees with people who answered only to her, creating an environment where I felt increasingly isolated. It was like watching my own company being redesigned without my voice. Every little action of hers seemed designed to push me out. At the same time, she made major decisions without consulting me, always carrying an air of casualness that deceived everyone around. I could sense my son's discomfort as he tried to balance his loyalty between us, unaware that he was being manipulated. It was agonizing to watch control slowly shift, like a tide quietly claiming the shore without us noticing. Even in this scenario, I remained calm and continued documenting every detail. Mentally noting every decision, every conversation, every gesture became my shield. Over time, I realized that these small observations would be essential to understanding Emma's behavior pattern and planning my future actions. It's fascinating how apparent chaos can be analyzed with precision when observed carefully. And while Emma advanced quietly, I strengthened internally. Every step she took taught me to be strategic, patient, and to resist reacting impulsively. The feeling of being pushed aside was frustrating, but it also prepared me for the moment when I would need to take back control decisively, like a chess piece waiting for the right move. Emma began making subtle comments about my age and health, always with a tone that seemed caring but carried a sting of manipulation. She would say things like, "You should rest more," or, "Maybe it's better not to get so involved," as if looking out for me, but I knew it was a way to destabilize me. Subtlety was her most dangerous weapon. I noticed how her warm words contrasted sharply with her cold eyes, which clearly revealed her true intentions. It was a psychological game, making me doubt my own abilities while pretending to care. Situations like these taught me the importance of trusting perception and instinct, even when everything around seems normal. I maintained my emotional control, taking deep breaths and analyzing every phrase, every gesture without immediate reaction. Mentally noting these interactions became a way to map her behavior, understanding how she tried to manipulate me. Every encounter became a study in character and strategy, and I grew stronger with each silent observation. And while Emma attempted to undermine my confidence with these fake concerns, I learned to shield my mind and separate appearance from real intention. Every comment was a lesson in patience and resilience, preparing me for moments when I would need to act decisively and precisely. I kept observing, always one step ahead even if she didn't notice. For months, I turned every suspicion, every detail Emma let slip into concrete evidence. I compiled emails, contracts, and records of decisions that revealed her true intention to manipulate the company. It was like assembling a complex puzzle, piece by piece, ensuring that no detail was overlooked. This phase required patience and discipline, but I knew every effort would be worth it. As I organized this evidence, my mind stayed focused on the goal: to turn the game around at the right moment. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about justice, protecting my son, and preserving my legacy. Each email reviewed, each contract analyzed, gave me the sense that I was building a solid armor, ready to react when necessary. My husband always told me it was essential to have an ace up your sleeve, something that would guarantee security and advantage in any situation. At that moment, I was putting that lesson into practice. Each document, each piece of evidence, would be the instrument that allowed me to regain control without acting impulsively or emotionally. And as I continued meticulously gathering everything, I felt a mixture of tension and excitement. I knew time was on my side, and that patience and strategy would be my greatest allies. Every detail observed became power, and I was about to discover how to turn this preparation into a decisive and surprising move. On the day of the meeting, I felt the tension in the air before even entering the room. Matteo and Emma arrived confident, believing they would make me sign the retirement documents that would strip my power from the company. They had no idea I had already analyzed every detail, every contract, and that I was prepared for any move. I smiled calmly, appearing reflective, while inside my mind was racing, mapping every step they would take. As they explained the benefits of sidelining me, I maintained absolute control. Every word they spoke was recorded mentally, every gesture, every expression, seemed rehearsed to underestimate me. I imagined several responses but chose calculated silence, letting them believe their strategy was working. It was fascinating to see how their confidence only gave me an advantage. With each attempt at persuasion, my determination grew. I needed to make it appear that I was considering retirement while in reality I was mapping every weakness in their strategy. I visualized future scenarios in which I would have absolute control, reversing every move they tried to impose. That moment became a game of patience and intelligence, where the power of the observer outweighed any direct pressure. And while they believed they had won, I was preparing for the moment I would turn this meeting into my advantage. Every gesture, every smile, every word they uttered without realizing it became fuel for the decisive move that was coming. This was the beginning of the turning point, where patience and strategy began to align. When it was time to sign the documents, I took a deep breath and executed every gesture with the utmost calm. I wanted every signature to appear natural so Emma and Matteo would think they had beaten me. On the outside, I smiled and nodded in agreement, but inside my mind was completely focused on every detail of the next step. Their perception of me was about to become my greatest advantage. As I signed, I studied both of their expressions, absorbing each reaction like a behavioral analysis. It was fascinating how their confidence was so absolute that they didn't suspect what was really happening. Each signature was a strategic act, creating the perfect illusion that I had conceded while in reality I controlled the entire board. I remembered my husband's advice about always having an ace up your sleeve, and how sometimes giving the appearance of yielding can be the most powerful move. Patience and perception had brought me this far, and now I could clearly see how to manipulate the situation in my favor. Every document signed was a silent step toward the critical point of phase 2 of my plan. And while they mentally celebrated their victory, I already had every piece of my next move in place. It was fascinating to observe how other people's confidence could become a powerful tool and how patience, combined with strategy, could turn a seemingly lost situation into an opportunity. Phase 2 was ready and nothing could stop me from executing it with precision. When I decided to show Mariana everything I had gathered, I felt a mixture of anxiety and relief. She opened the files, reading every email, every suspicious contract, and was shocked by the extent of Emma's manipulation. It was impossible to deny. The truth was right there in front of us. At the same time, she understood my strategy of patience, of making everyone believe they had won. As I explained each detail, I saw a mixture of disbelief and admiration in Mariana's eyes. She began to understand that behind the calm smile I maintained in front of Emma and Matteo, there was a mind working strategically, planning every move with precision. It was a moment of intense connection, where mother and daughter became accomplices in something far greater. Together we began outlining the next steps. Mariana suggested ideas and I considered each one carefully, adjusting the plan to make it flawless. What seemed to be merely an act of revenge or justice had transformed into a lesson about intelligence, patience, and trust between us. She realized that sometimes the best way to defeat manipulation is to observe, document, and wait for the right moment. And as we mapped out this strategy together, I felt something change within me. It wasn't just about protecting the company or my son, but about strengthening our family, showing Mariana the power of acting with intelligence and composure. Every step of the plan grew stronger, and the time to reveal the truth was approaching inevitably. When Emma announced the farewell party, I felt the heavy air of her intentions, to humiliate me publicly and celebrate what she believed was her victory. But while everyone prepared to applaud, I had already transformed that event into my own stage of strategy. Every detail, every gesture was planned to turn the game in a surprising and memorable way. While she organized the event as if it were a triumph, I mentally reviewed every point of the internal audit. All the suspicious contracts, emails, and proof of fraud were ready to be presented. It was like holding a hidden card, ready to be revealed at the perfect moment, and I knew no one would be able to ignore the evidence in front of the guests. I stepped onto the stage with the calm confidence of someone who knows her own power, smiling and greeting the attendees, while my mind rehearsed every phrase I would speak. Every word was chosen to make an impact, to show that patience and strategy are worth far more than haste and arrogance. Emma quickly realized that things weren't going as she had imagined, and in that instant the tension became palpable. As I revealed the audit exposing fraud and misappropriation, I felt the room shift. Murmurs, shocked and surprised glances spread throughout the space, while I maintained my composure and dignity. Every detail of my preparation was working perfectly, and the party Emma had planned to humiliate me became the showcase of my strategic victory. When Roberto entered with investigators during the event, I felt a chill mixed with quiet satisfaction. Emma and Matteo, who until then had believed they were in control, had no idea what was about to happen. In front of everyone, the documents I had meticulously prepared detailing fraud, shell accounts, and forgeries were presented clearly and strategically. The scene was almost cinematic. Investigators escorting the two out of the room while the guests watched in disbelief. It was concrete proof that every detail I had planned had been worth it. The shock on their faces showed that they had underestimated my patience and my ability to turn apparent defeat into victory. In that moment, I felt a wave of power and relief. Seeing my strategy work exactly as I had envisioned reinforced the importance of observing, documenting, and planning each step calmly. Every document presented was a reminder that patience and intelligence can overcome manipulation and arrogance. And as Emma and Matteo were escorted out, I realized how months of effort culminated in that instant of absolute control. I maintained a firm and confident posture, showing everyone that not only had I survived attempts to usurp me, but I was stronger and more prepared than ever to protect my family and my legacy. After Emma and Matteo's removal, I felt the responsibility to restore normalcy in the company. Every detail needed attention to ensure business operations continued without disruption. My priority was reintegrating loyal employees, those who had always shown dedication and trust, ensuring the team regained motivation and confidence in leadership. Calling the board meeting was a strategic move. I wanted to demonstrate clearly and definitively that control had returned to my hands. During the meeting, I presented the next steps and strategies to restore the company's momentum, reaffirming my leadership role and emphasizing the importance of transparency and trust in every decision. At the same time, justice began to act, following the trail of evidence I had meticulously gathered. Watching each planned step come to fruition brought a mixture of relief and satisfaction. It was proof that patience, observation, and strategy can overcome even the most skillful manipulations. And as I consolidated control of the company and strengthened the team, I realized that this moment wasn't just about defeating adversaries. It was about rebuilding structures, trust, and values. Every decision made, every employee reintegrated, served as a reminder that planning and resilience are the greatest tools to maintain power and protect what is yours. When I visited Matteo in detention, I felt a mix of firmness and care. My goal wasn't merely to reprimand him but to show that there was still a path to repair. I clearly explained how Emma had manipulated him, and that many decisions he believed he had made independently had actually been influenced by her. It was time to face the truth directly with courage and honesty. As I spoke, I kept a maternal tone, full of love but leaving no room for excuses or concessions. He needed to understand the gravity of the situation and take responsibility for his actions, without relying on my indulgence. Every word was chosen to awaken reflection and awareness about his choices and their effects on the company and family. At the same time, I offered the possibility of cooperating with justice to reduce legal penalties. I showed that there was still an opportunity to repair the damage, provided there was sincerity and commitment to correcting mistakes. It was a delicate balance between firmness and compassion, reminding that acting strategically does not exclude caring for those we love. And as we spoke, I noticed Matteo beginning to grasp the magnitude of the consequences of his choices. The visit reinforced that the power of planning, patience, and conscious love can turn even mistakes into opportunities for learning and reconstruction, paving the way for him to reflect on his future. Even after facing the betrayal of someone I loved most, I discovered a strength within me I had never imagined. Rebuilding my life and protecting my legacy required courage, patience, and clarity of purpose. Every challenge, every disappointment became fuel for my determination, showing that true strength is born from resilience and the ability to remain steadfast amid chaos. I learned that revenge may bring a momentary satisfaction, but it doesn't build a future nor protect what truly matters. True strength lies in preserving what is valuable: family, principles, and achievements earned through effort. This understanding allowed me to act with maturity, turning situations of pain into opportunities for growth and learning. As I rebuilt my life, I realized that acting with integrity is an invisible shield that protects more than any confrontational strategy ever could. Every decision made with honesty, every step taken with clear intention, reinforced my position and strengthened my inner peace. It was a silent victory, but one far more enduring than any superficial triumph. And as I reflected on all of this, I understood that true power isn't about humiliating or harming those who hurt us, but in rising again, maintaining dignity, and building something solid that withstands the test of time. This lesson became the foundation for everything I would do from that moment on, guiding my choices and strengthening my legacy forever. Share your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your perspective. And if this story made you reflect, like the video and subscribe to the channel to follow more real and intense stories like this one. Because in the end, every story is an opportunity to see life through new eyes.